This is for the Western world. This does not work in Israel any longer. That's why this conversation that took place a couple hours ago in English is one thing, but what's going on right now in Israel is an entirely separate thing. So do not be duped. Now let's talk about Benjamin Netanyahu asking for forgiveness over hostage killings as he warns about Hamas will pay a very heavy price.
I am asking for your forgiveness that we did not manage to bring them back still alive. We were close, but we didn't achieve it. And I would also like to once again repeat this evening, Israel will not stand silently doing nothing facing this massacre. Hamas will pay a very heavy price for that in the war against the axis of evil. And in this specific war against Hamas, and also in the north, we have set 4 goals: to eradicate Hamas, to bring back all of our hostages, to make sure that Gaza no longer poses a threat over Israel, and to allow the people of Israel living in the north return home safely. 3 of these goals go through one place, and that is the Philadelphia corridor. It is the conduit of oxygen and armament for Hamas. And I would like to devote several minutes in order to explain the meaning of the Philadelphia corridor. What is it? What is its significance for Israel's security? What is its significance and importance in guaranteeing that we won't face another October 7th and another October 7th and another October 7th, just as Hamas promised that it would do? So first of all, I'd like to show you what we had over the years until we pulled out of there. This is the state of Israel, this is Egypt, and you can see the Gaza Strip here. The distance from Tel Aviv isn't that big, from Beersheba and from the area surrounding the border. Of course, there's hardly any distance, but we had an international border going from the sea all the way down to Eilat. This was Israel's international border. If you could blow it up a bit. So if we see this now, as we zoom in, you can see that throughout these borders, the maritime border is under our control, but the land, the ground border isn't under our control. Ashkelon, Sderot, the Kibbutzim, the Kerem Shalom passage, and here you have the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor, all of them under our control. And this is what happened when we pulled out of Gaza. This is what happened. The borders remained in our hands. They tried breaking through the maritime border. Remember the Marmara and some other events and flotillas, but we...
Yeah, that was a humanitarian aid ship that you destroyed. Mavi Marmara is what he's talking about. It was a Turkish humanitarian aid ship that they sent commandos into and killed everyone on, and then lied and said they had weapons, and they only showed like a bunch of kitchen knives.
Weathered them all. So nothing could come wherever we were in control of the borders. But once we pulled out of the Philadelphia corridor. See, this is the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. And once we pulled out of there was no obstacle left from a massive infusion of weapons and means of warfare and machines for manufacturing weapons and machines for digging tunnels, all of that under the auspices of Iran, with the funding of Iran. So all of these things that you see here came into Gaza. So Gaza became this huge threat over Israel because there was no barrier here. There was nothing stopping this. This is what happened. So now the question remains, and people ask me this question, well, if it was that bad, right? How come you didn't conquer it? Why didn't you conquer it? And the answer is that we constantly tried to harm, to attack, of course, immediately after the disengagement, this armament, and of course, even more so under the time when Morsi was in regime, in power, but also with Mubarak as well. But we fought them. There were a series of wars or campaigns. I led 3 of these campaigns: Pillar of Defense, Guardian of the Walls, and Protective Edge. We fought it. And this, of course, led to a situation in which we killed off thousands of terrorists and senior ranking commanders, the chief of general staff of Hamas, Jabri, but there wasn't national or international legitimacy to go inside of Gaza, to conquer it, to reconquer the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor. There wasn't any national consensus or international agreement to that. Now, the importance of the Philadelphia corridor, it's not something I'm just saying now. I already said that 20 years ago.
The reason why he is specifically talking about the Philadelphia corridor, this is a great example, gives a great study in attempting to manufacture little missile icons inside of Gaza, but just city names within Israel. Yeah. So the reason why he is like specifically talking about the Philadelphia corridor is because pretty much everyone in those in the Israeli protests are cognizant of the real spoiler in the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations that have been taking place. Everyone understands that Benjamin Netanyahu keeps adding additional poison pill provisions into the pre-existing framework, specifically to continue the war, continue the genocide. Okay? They know that. That's why they keep mentioning the Philadelphia corridor and the permanent occupation of Gaza, the permanent military occupation of Gaza as a reason. They know that. So now he's turning around and trying to explain away why he's like, we have to have this permanent military occupation on the southern border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, because then they'll take the hostages out from that border and they'll sneak them into Iran and we'll never see them ever again, and all this other bullshit. The irony, of course, is that, dude, if you did the ceasefire deal, you would have the hostages. And everybody understands this, with the exception of dumbass Americans, okay? And the reason why, and I hate to say this, dumbass Americans don't understand it, is because our media does not actually cover the situation and has done a great disservice in an effort to tie themselves, in an effort to continue the Biden administration's absolutely insane suicide pact with Benjamin Netanyahu. That's it. That is the reason why he is personally trying to explain away to the Israeli society in Hebrew why the Philadelphia corridor must be maintained, why the Philadelphia corridor on the Rafah crossing must be permanently occupied by the Israeli military.
Sharon declared the disengagement at the end of 2003, and then a few months later, on March 26, 2004,
What's the real reason he wants to control the Philadelphia corridor? I mean, he has openly recognized this. I think it's not that crazy. He wants a permanent military occupation of Gaza in a similar capacity to the West Bank, to deny any sort of Palestinian statehood in Gaza, and to have permanent military control over the civil affairs of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip as well. That's it. He wants to conquer it. He wants to permanently, fully reoccupy the Gaza Strip. That is the reason.
Described what are my minimal demands, and I said my first condition is control over all the crossings into the Gaza Strip and from the land, from the air, and from the sea. The Philadelphia corridor, which separates between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, will not be evacuated. If Israel cedes control over it, that's what I said back then Gaza will turn into a terrorist enclave. And when I resigned from the government, when I realized that they were going for the disengagement, that they were going to uproot Jewish settlements, communities, I handed in my resignation later, and I said to Prime Minister Sharon at the time, I said, as a minimum, I demanded that we keep the Philadelphia corridor in our hands. So it's not something new. It was obvious that if we don't have this corridor, they will arm themselves, they will.
Yeah, this is all like, hey, sorry the 6 hostages were killed, but here's why they had to be. That's what it is. This entire thing is, this entire PowerPoint, this racist-ass fucking PowerPoint, is straight up to be like, this is why the 6 people were killed, okay? Sucks to suck. That's precisely what he's saying, which, of course, you know, it's very telling, and I don't think that it's working for Israeli society. I don't think they give a about his personal ambitions, and that's why he says it simply won't happen. Netanyahu, in a message to the Biden administration on a proposal to withdraw Israeli troops from the Philadelphia corridor and the Gaza-Egypt border in a hostage ceasefire deal. What this means basically is I'm not dealing with the ceasefire. You have to cave. You have to concede to my demand. The problem is there is a party there on the other side. There's a party there on the other side that literally is saying, no, we're not going to understandably allow a permanent military occupation. That is not a ceasefire at all. Okay. Yeah. By the way, of course, his own defense minister is urging the security cabinet to reverse decision to keep IDF on the Philadelphia corridor, says hostages must be brought home. Yoav Gallant, who is the other war criminal named by the ICC for a warrant out for his arrest by the ICC prosecutors, is literally at odds with Benjamin Netanyahu. Other prominent military officials within the Israeli occupying forces have come out over the course of many months at this point and have said there is no military solution to Hamas. There is no permanent military occupation. We cannot maintain a permanent military occupation. This is ludicrous. This is insane. That is what they keep saying. Israeli Minister of Defense Gallant at the cabinet meeting on Sunday. The hostages have no time. We got proof of that yesterday. Continuing to impose constraints such as the decision on the Philadelphia corridor will result in us not meeting the goals of the war. The fact that we prioritize the Philadelphia corridor at the cost of the lives of the hostages is a serious moral disgrace. Minister Ron Derman at the cabinet meeting, it would be a grave mistake to change the decision from Thursday regarding the Philadelphia corridor. To even talk about it will be a disaster that will incentivize murder. We should exert a very heavy price from Hamas for murdering the hostages. That will make it clear to them that it must not happen again. Except you have done that, dumbass. You have. Like, you've killed 40,000 plus Palestinians. You've destroyed every inch of the Gaza Strip. Okay? You've done that already. It's not working. There is no heavier cost to incur in this circumstance. It's just one note, one speed. Netanyahu told Gallant in the cabinet meeting, I want to release all of our hostages no less than you. I fought for the release of the hostages. We already covered this part. Kamala Israel rat pack. What is this? I'm 90% sure they're trying to wrap. The outside group Future Coalition PAC has launched a bunch of digital ads on Facebook and Instagram, Snapchat discussing Harris's support for Israel. These digital ads are targeted at very specific communities in Michigan. Map of the targeted zip codes below. What is this?
Vice President Harris has chosen a side, her right side. Harris has made herself clear. She stands with Israel and the Jewish people. She has, again and again. She understands the unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel. So when Netanyahu came to D.C., Harris hosted the Prime Minister at the White House. And when supporters of a free Palestine stood up for Gaza, Harris put them in their place. And supporters of free Palestine, they hate her. Because Kamala Harris gets it. We can trust she'll always support Israel.
Wait, are they saying they're running these ads in Muslim districts? I mean, what do you think? This isn't real, is it? Oh my God. It 100% is. Now, if only there was a way. I mean, this is literally that YouTube channel's description. Kamala Harris has helped put the American dream even further out of reach and can't be trusted to revive it. Future Coalition PAC is working to elect someone with fresh ideas who will fight for us. Yup. If that was an anti-Kamala ad, it's brilliant. It is an anti-Kamala ad. Of course it's an anti-Kamala ad. Guys, AIPAC rarely does ads about Israel, okay? They paid very little mind and very little attention to Israel in any of their forward correspondence in the Democratic Party primaries, because everybody understands ain't nobody give a fuck about Israel, dog. Okay? There are, however, some people who give a fuck about Palestine and Palestinians, and that's precisely the reason why this ad is being pumped in these districts, in these heavily Arab, heavily Muslim districts in Michigan. Okay? That's it. No matter how hard the American media goes in defense of Israel, okay? Most people either A, don't give a shit, B, don't understand it, or C, think it's abhorrent. The easiest way to solve this, and ads like this specifically, would be to obviously openly communicate that that's not what you're doing. Okay? Yeah, it's a Republican ad, dude. The outside group Future Coalition PAC has launched a bunch of digital ads on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat discussing Harris's support for Israel. These digital ads are targeted at very specific communities in Michigan. Map of the targeted zip codes below. It's very obvious what the fuck is going on. They're hitting Kamala by saying, look, she's incredibly pro-Israel. She's the most pro-Israel politician ever. Look at how pro-Israel she is. The unfortunate reality is she is pro-Israel. That's it. Until she comes out 10 toes down and says something very different than what she has communicated thus far, she is unimaginably pro-Israel. She is running towards Joseph Robinette Biden, who we all know is majorly pro-Israel, okay? And it's a deterrent. I mean, he is so pro-Israel that it is bad for not only America, but America's soft power capabilities in the region, America's hegemonic status, America's interest in upholding at least this faint idea of the international rule-based order. Like, he's up the bag entirely, even for the American State Department. And she is running alongside that. She is marrying herself to this idea at a time when Americans, when polled, say Trump was significantly better than Joe Biden on Israel. Think about that. But she is pro-Israel. What the fuck are you saying? No, I'm saying that she is. I'm saying that. So until she changes trajectory, changes course on, her correspondence or communications, separating herself from the Biden admin, trying to apply outside pressure, even though she is also capable of applying inside pressure as the vice president, telling the public that, like, no, this is not me, and that we need to change course, and this is the right thing to do going forward. She's cooked. It's a lib-aligned pack. I doubt it. So many of these different instances where I've fucking talked about this on Twitter. Okay? So many videos I've made on this matter. Every single person came in here and told me I'm wrong and that I should just shut the fuck up about Palestine and that people won't care about it and people are not going to care about it. And that Kamala Harris is actually working tirelessly behind closed doors, and that they're doing their very best for this reason or for that reason. Everybody looked for an outlet. Everybody looked for a reason to be like, no, this is actually good. This is actually a good thing. Kamala Harris is like leaning in because she doesn't want to fuck up the ceasefire negotiation or whatever. No, she should have been applying pressure instantly. Okay, nothing behind closed doors. Openly, she should have been applying pressure to the Biden administration if she wants to win this goddamn election. Okay, I get it. People are desperate for change, and the Democratic Party gave them some crumbs of change that made it seem like things would be different. I understand that, but I told you time and time again. I mean, yeah, I said I can't be alone in thinking that Kamala should probably stop referring to Joe Biden at all going forward in her campaigns. I also said Kamala Harris should separate herself from Biden. Real Hillary moment from Kamala telling anti-genocide protesters that they want Trump to win if they keep speaking out of turn like that. But it's not just that. I said time and time again, foreign policy does not move elections until it's the only thing that people think about and it's the only thing that people talk about. There is a likelihood that leaving Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump's best buddy, okay? Trump's best buddy on the table, allowing him to do an October surprise at the behest of Donald Trump is insane to me, okay? Here's another one. Once again, it is morally the right thing to do. It is also electorally beneficial. Biden was trailing behind Trump on Israel by double digits before he dropped out. Kamala Harris must not continue this unpopular and cruel charade. Vibes only go so far. You need every vote. That's it. I gave you a historic example with Humphreys versus LBJ in the Vietnam War. He did not separate until it was far too late, and that cost him the election. It is crazy. It is crazy that they do not recognize this. From the Israeli state broadcaster Khan, Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to convince the public of the importance of the Philadelphia Axis when he was unable to convince neither Defense Minister Gallant nor the head of the Mossad Barna nor Chief of Staff Halevi on this matter. Bro, the public broadcaster is bouldering the Netanyahu cabinet. Netanyahu single-handedly at this point And the American media and the American leadership is not doing that. It is mind-boggling how bad their instincts are. I don't know what else to say. It is crazy. Timestamp, last question from the presser in English.
And achieving the release would seriously ask
This is Bibi defining total victory when asked in English.
same seriousness. On August 19th, in English, a question that I was asked in Hebrew. I was asked whether I'm not doing enough to the release of hostages. Well, I want to set the record straight. On April 27th, Secretary of State Blinken said that Israel made an extraordinarily generous offer for a hostage deal. On May 31st, Israel agreed to a U.S.-backed proposal. Hamas refused. On August 16th, Israel agreed.
Yeah, he lied. It's funny that he's saying this in English because guess what? Everybody who understands Hebrew that's in that room knows exactly what he did in that process. Because in Hebrew, in Israel, he kept saying, there's no hostage deal. I don't know what these American dumbasses are on about. But when he's speaking in English, he's like, oh, yeah, Anthony Blinken said, we made these generous proposals. I mean, it's so generous. I wonder, like, it's crazy to me that so many people in Israel speak English, okay? So many people see what he's doing, but it doesn't fucking matter because that question and that answer is for us in the Western world, for us in America, for us in the UK, for dumbasses that want to maintain this facade.
Agreed to what the United States defined as a final bridging proposal. Hamas refused again. On August 19th, Secretary Blinken said, Israel accepted the U.S. proposal. Now Hamas must do the same. On August 28th, that's 5 days ago, Deputy CIA Director said that Israel shows seriousness in the negotiations. Now Hamas must show the same seriousness. I want to ask you something. What has changed in the last 5 days? What has changed? One thing. These murderers executed 6 of our hostages. They shot them in the back of the head. That's what's changed. And now after this, we're asked to show seriousness?
Is crazy because, like, again, this is for the Western world. This does not work in Israel any longer. That's why this conversation that took place a couple hours ago in English is one thing, but what's going on right now in Israel is an entirely separate thing. So do not be duped. Here it is. The Prime Minister's official residence, Lirat Shavit in Jerusalem, determined protesters break through the police barricades to get to Netanyahu's residence. It's not a logical leap to assume that they are lying about Trump if they're lying this blatantly about Israel. What do you mean? Yeah, but we know what Trump has done. Trump's actions are directly responsible for October 7. Like his actions of giving Israel everything, Abraham Accords, all of that greatly worsened the conditions of everyday Palestinians and greatly increased the brutality that Palestinians were subjected to. And I talked to Palestinians in Gaza, and even they personally think, well, under Trump, we weren't being bombed this hard. That is a real thing, okay? Because it's very difficult for people to recognize what is going on right now and then, think about anything else. They see the Democratic Party sending bombs to Israel, and those bombs are being used to kill their friends, to kill their families, okay? I know what the truth is. The truth is, of course, Trump would be significantly worse. The truth is, Trump has been significantly worse, but it does not matter. Do you understand? It does not matter because Trump is currently not the president, and that gives him a shit ton of benefits in terms of how he can message out of this. And he's done a relatively decent job so far in terms of like angling it in a way where there's an out for him so that people just imagine what they're people just project their own values into Donald Trump. They think, oh yeah, he is a peaceful dove. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand? This isn't correct, but people don't make correct, calculated, logical decisions when they're voting, which is precisely the reason why you have to communicate all the time exactly what your policies are. You have to demonstrate messaging discipline. There are and if I know this, obviously Democratic Party operatives know this as well. Okay. So do we give Trump a chance? No, I'm not saying that, man. I'm not saying that at all. Please understand. You know what my position is on this. There's a difference between what the truth is and how people perceive it. Okay. That is what I'm saying. Jesus Christ. Yeah. He just says he will negotiate perfectly and end this war. Genius how vague it is. Exactly. It's the same principle behind Donald Trump being like, I'm going to cut prices. I'm going to cut grocery prices. Kamala Harris comes out and says, this is how we're going to cut grocery prices. He says, that's communism. How are you going to cut grocery prices? I'm going to cut it. Think about that. Okay. Someone's going to clip this and say you're pro-Trump, Lamau. I don't care. I don't care what people do. Like if people are that invested in scarring my reputation or whatever in the midst of an ongoing genocide, as I'm literally talking about how Democrats should communicate better if they want to win, okay, then, those people, what are you going to do? Here's Netanyahu's plan for a Palestinian state. Basically shove all Palestinians to Gaza. The West Bank is erased. This is ethnic cleansing. I mean, it's exactly what it is. Yeah, they even bring up the Khabib clip. Thank you. This has 96,000 likes, man. I'm telling you, people want to imagine. People always have a tendency to project what their own personal desires are to their politicians, especially if their politicians are perceived as charismatic. Okay? And in the absence of counter messaging from the Democratic Party, of course, people are going to make their own minds up.
I don't know. I got a little girl. 50 times. Thank you, man. I don't know. I got a little girl. I got to see. I think this could be evidence. Well, if it.
And by the way, this is not my own inference. This is not just me anecdotally talking about the things that I've heard from Arab Americans or even Palestinians stuck in Gaza that are currently experiencing a genocide. This also shows up in the data, okay? There is empirical evidence to back up this sentiment that Americans broadly want a ceasefire and even want to deny weapons transfers to Israel. But simultaneously, those very same Americans, when polled, think Donald Trump is going to do better than Biden did. He was, leading by double digits on Biden on the issue of Israel-Palestine. And now, more and more, he's leading on Kamala Harris as well. Kamala Harris was closer early on to Donald Trump in terms of who would do better in Gaza. Okay. And now her approval ratings on Gaza are worsening because she keeps coming out and tying herself to the current administration and their deeply unpopular policies. It's that simple. It's not that hard to understand. It is not that hard to understand. Also, Trump has given way too many flip-flop passes by the public and the media. He can tell Palestinians will end the war while also telling Israelis and Jews will finish the job, and no one bothers to question him because he's Trump. Exactly. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Hassan, the hilariously sad thing is Trump was talking about Russia, Ukraine. Oh my God, I said this. Oh my God, I called this. Oh my God, I didn't even know he actually personally talked about
the fight.
it.
He said to me, "Oh, I hope you can get in because we have to stop the wars. We have to stop the killing.
On the
so
flip
many
side,
people are being killed." He's a very smart guy, very interesting guy. We talked.
Wait, I don't remember this in the Logan Paul Impulsive
You
video.
guys would probably say he's the best ever, maybe, and he was just about my favorite guy. Right after the election, if I win, I will get that war stopped before I get to office.
Talking about Russia, Ukraine.
I'm talking about Russia, Ukraine.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, yeah,
We'll
he
get
did.
it.
He did. He 100% was, no, you're right. We watched this. It's genuinely frustrating how willfully incompetent Dems are being, 100%. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. What the Democrats are doing right now is poison, okay? Kamala has lost 40% support from Muslim voters. Wait, what? Shocking poll. Democrats had a 40-point drop with Muslim voters. Jill Stein is not tied with Kamala Harris with the Muslim vote. This is the strongest position third parties have been in my entire life. Yeah, okay, dude. Jill Stein is really cooking, dude. Jill Mentum is real. Come on, guys. All right,
Protesters
let's look at the
taking to streets to
protests.
demand that the government agree to a ceasefire.
The
after
protests
6
are good
hostages were
because it's like
executed.
at least getting some real coverage in American media for the first time ever, communicating some of these desires that completely go against the American position and completely go against American State Department propaganda.
In Gaza.
I gotta
Israeli
pee.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is placing all the blame on Hamas, saying whoever murders hostages does not want a deal. Marcus Moore is on the scene in Israel. Good morning, Marcus.
George, good morning. This is the funeral procession for 23-year-old Israeli-American hostage Hersh Goldberg, Poland. You see all of the people here in Jerusalem who have lined the procession route as they go to a nearby cemetery. His murder and that of 5 other hostages sparked deep sorrow and anger across Israel. Overnight, thousands packing the streets of Tel Aviv to protest the deaths of 6 more hostages. Protesters blocking a highway in Tel Aviv, setting fires, demonstrating against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's handling of the war. Israeli police seen clashing with protesters, arresting dozens, and using water cannons to disperse the crowd, dragging and pushing them through the streets. Outrage growing after the Israeli Ministry of Health says the 6 hostages were killed, quote, in a number of short-range shots, estimating their deaths occurred 48 to 72 hours before their bodies were examined. The hostages found in Gaza, Israeli-American Hersh Goldberg, Poland, among those murdered. Richmond, Virginia Rabbi David Asher, a friend of the Poland family, horrified by the news.
Beautiful boy who was taken way too soon. It's horrible and tragic that so many civilians have died in Gaza during this war.
I spoke with Hersh's mother earlier this summer after a video of him in captivity was released to the public.
Listen, we are pawns in a game. The hostages are pawns in a game. Their families are pawns in a game. And a game that we didn't sign up for.
The head of Hamas's negotiation team saying the hostages could have been brought back alive, claiming it.
What do you think finally made Biden go, Bibi isn't doing enough? Dude, I don't care, okay? I don't care. I don't care that Biden finally said Bibi isn't doing enough. For the past 3 months, Benjamin Netanyahu has openly sullied the terms that the American government kept saying was Israel's own terms, okay? It means nothing. It means nothing to me, and it should mean nothing to you, okay? Until you see firm commitments, from the American administration currently, the Democratic Party, okay? Until you see them genuinely take a stance, it means nothing. It took 3 months of him openly saying, F Biden, I don't care about this deal. There's no deal, for him to turn around and be like, oh, I guess he's like not doing enough. That's the strongest condemnation publicly that he's given to Benjamin Netanyahu. It does not matter, okay? For the past 11 months, Biden has come out and been like, I want a 2-state. Benjamin Netanyahu comes out the next day, says, F a 2-state. How about a no state, okay? Every day. Rinse and repeat every day for the past 11 months of this ongoing genocide. It is so ridiculous. Oh, wow. Finally, he said, Benjamin Netanyahu. Finally, he recognized the truth. Here it is in January 14th, 2024. Biden running out of patience with Bibi as Gaza war hits 100 days. Until he says, we are going to follow international law. Until he says, we are going to stop, we're going to follow American law that is already in the books in terms of weapons transfers to Israel. We cannot do it anymore because Israel is very clearly committing gross human rights violations, and therefore we cannot give them any more weapons. It is against the law. It is illegal under American law to continue giving weapons to a country that is openly violating international law. Okay? That is in the American law. Ain't nobody's out here demanding Biden, invade Tel Aviv or some shit, okay? Which you could make an argument under international human rights and international law to do such a thing, but we're not even saying that. People are simply saying, follow the law in the goddamn books, okay? Follow the law in your own books, because he is incontrovertible of international law and also American law every single time they send weapons to Israel. Every single time. That's why it's important that the UK is at the very least stopping some weapons transfers. Anyway, so him consistently saying, oh, I'm mad at Netanyahu, it's nothing. 30 licenses out of 350 doesn't matter. 30 licenses out of 350 is still good because last year it was 0. It was not even a question. My concern now is that Netanyahu is saying Hamas will pay a very, very heavy price, will be him killing Sinwar in the middle of negotiations to get a ceasefire, thus ending negotiations and using the hostage killing as a justification. I mean, I feel like they haven't been able to kill Sinwar yet, so I don't know how the fuck they're going to do that now. Who knows? And it's not Yahya Sinwar that is, causing people to be up in arms against this genocidal apartheid state. Okay? It is the fact that the genocidal apartheid state exists that causes people to rise up in arms. So Yahya Sinwar dies, but that doesn't mean the resistance dies. Of course, people are still going to resist.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is the reason for their deaths. Both sides trading blame. Netanyahu saying Sunday, quote, he who murders hostages does not want a deal. An Israeli security official confirming to ABC News 3 of the killed hostages were set to be released, according to a July draft of the ceasefire deal.
This is the most damning part of this, okay? By name, they said, you seem mad. I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't be. So much senseless death and destruction so far over the course of the past 11 months. Everyone is screaming bloody murder. There is no good reason to continue this dance. There is no good reason. We are locked in, as the United States of America, we are locked in at the mercy of a madman who is even at odds with his own war cabinet at times in continuing this death and destruction. And he has a personal reason as to why he wants to do it. How the fuck are you not mad? We're having this conversation when tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Israelis are storming Benjamin Netanyahu's primary residence, demanding a change in the way that Israel has continued waging this genocide. Of course I'm going to be mad in this situation. They're mad too. I'm shocked that you're not,
Aviva, the wife of Israeli-American hostage Keith Siegel, concerned her husband could be killed at any moment.
We need all the hostages home.
This morning, the protest continuing as thousands take to the streets demanding the hostages be released. And another look at all of the people who had gathered here to pay their respects to the Goldberg Poland family. There are more than 90 hostages still in Gaza, several of them Americans, and according to officials, the belief is that only half of them are still alive. Families here in Israel urging the Israeli government to accept a ceasefire deal to bring the rest of the hostages home. Michael.
Yeah, our thoughts are with those families.